गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। आज हम बात करेंगे पाकिस्तान वे ऑफ वॉर एंड दिस इज ऑल अबाउट कारगिल एट 25। व्हाई कारगिल एट 25? 25 साल हो गया कारगिल के लड़ाई हमने लड़ लिया, जीत हासिल कर लिया, बहुत कुछ सीखा, बहुत कुछ भूल गए हम। पर ये वक्त आया है जब हमें थोड़ा ये सब कुछ, जिस तरीके से लड़ाई लड़ना है, जिस तरीके से लड़ाई लड़ी जाएगी, एक नया सोच विचार से देखना की जरूरत है, जिसमें जो हमने पहले किया था वो पता होना चाहिए और हमारा जो दुश्मन है किस तरीके से सोच विचार करते हैं उसके ऊपर भी नजर डालने की जरूरत है। That's why I started this series of Kargil at 25. Yesterday we had an opening session with General Hasnain on lessons from Kargil war. आज हम पाकिस्तान और पाकिस्तान आर्मी will discuss it and we'll discuss it from a Pakistani viewpoint, and we will see as to how पाकिस्तान हर वक्त हारता है फिर भी किसी न किसी तरीके से वो जीत घोषित कर लेता है। ये कोई अच्छी बात नहीं है कि जीत घोषित करना हारने के बाद भी, पर दैट इज द डीएनए ऑफ पाकिस्तान एंड दैट डीएनए इज समथिंग व्हिच वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, क्योंकि वो जो डीएनए है और उसका जो दृष्टिकोण है उसी तरीके से उनके साथ हमें डील करने की जरूरत है। सबसे पहले पाकिस्तान में भी पोर, बट पाकिस्तान आर्मी इज नॉट पोर। पाकिस्तान आर्मी is well trained, well equipped. Even today, it is ordering the latest submarines from China. It is ordering the best fighter it can from China, tanks वगैरह, artillery, सब कुछ। क्योंकि वेस्ट से उसको मिलता नहीं है तो वो चाइना से लेते हैं सब कुछ। वो एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं, एक्सरसाइज अभी यूएसए के साथ करने वाले हैं, चाइना के साथ करता है रेगुलरली, टर्की के साथ, रशिया, यूक्रेन, यूके, गल्फ कंट्रीज, श्रीलंका, यहां तक श्रीलंका के साथ भी मिलिट्री एक्सरसाइज करते रहते हैं। तो इसका पाकिस्तान का आर्मी इज स्ट्रांग, राइट? सो वी हैव टू नो हाउ टू हैंडल पाकिस्तान। आई ऑलवेज से पाकिस्तान जब हम बात करते हैं दो हिस्सों के बारे में सोचने की जरूरत है। एक पाकिस्तान स्टेट है। The Pakistan state is the center of governance. It is the Pakistan army which is the center of power, and the Pakistan army sits on top of the Pakistan state. It overlaps. The problem with dealing with Pakistan is you have to deal with the Pakistan state, which has no control over the center of power. And you have no direct approach to the center of power unless you attack it. That is the problem of Pakistan. And that is the problem everyone has with Pakistan. Okay, from here on, whatever I'm going to speak, I have brought from the Pakistani authors. What do Pakistani authors talk of Pakistan and the Pakistan way of war, or the Pakistani army way of war? दो अलग हैं। पाकिस्तान किस तरीके से लड़ता है अलग है, पाकिस्तान के आर्मी किस तरीके से लड़ता है वो अलग है, right? And if you know how to differentiate between the two, we will handle Pakistan well. What is the strategic culture of Pakistan? The strategic culture of Pakistan and its army are interchangeable. इधर से उधर, उधर से इधर बदली कर सकते. It is the army which sets the country's key foreign and domestic policies. Army is the hierarchy. ये सबको पता है, ये कोई नया चीज नहीं है, पर ये वो ही खुद अंदर बोलते हैं. It's a complicated animal. It needs better understanding because it's always going to be your enemy. The Pakistan state or the army, whichever way you look at it, it emerges victorious after each defeat. It will get militarily defeated, it will get politically defeated, but yet the country celebrates victory. The country celebrates even Kargil as a victory. यहां तक परवेज मुशर्रफ मरते तक बोलता रहा, कारगिल में हम हारे नहीं, हम जीते हैं. हम क्यों जीते हैं? क्योंकि हम इंटरनेशनलाइज द कश्मीर इशू, और वो कश्मीर इशू को मुद्दा बना के टेबल पे ले आए, जिसके ऊपर भारत को बातचीत करना पड़ा. ये परवेज मुशर्रफ मरते दम तक बोलता रहा. So, what is the concept of victory of Pakistan? We have to understand. It is elusive. Pakistan can lose, but not the army. The army always wins in Pakistan. Military and political defeat of the army of Pakistan is not the defeat of the army. You can defeat Pakistan in battle. You can defeat Pakistan army in battle. You can defeat the Pakistan state in battle and politically. But the army never gets defeated. Right? Pakistan army cannot be defeated militarily. It survives all defeats to achieve political victory. Whether it is in Kargil war, 65, 71, you have defeated them militarily, but it achieves political victory within. It is not outside, it is within. Because it achieves political victory within Pakistan, or it usurps political victory within Pakistan, it rules and it survives. It is only when the army is politically defeated that it becomes important. What happened when we abrogated Article 370? Pakistan did not have a political response. The Pakistan army did not have a political response. That's the only time they were just हाथ मलते हुए साइड में खड़े हो गए, कुछ नहीं कर पाए आज तक. My view is, if the political defeat of the army cannot be engineered, ensure that Pakistan army is not given battle. This is my view. Okay, right? Because understanding this animal is very important. Look at this. Pakistan army is defeated in all wars. It has provided dubious support both to USA and Taliban or Mujahideen simultaneously, and made sure that they fought. And both of them had to come to the Pakistan army. ये बिल्ली बन गया, वो चूहे एक दूसरे के साथ लड़ते रहे. You see its response after Balakot to India, and see its response against Iran. चढ़ के आ जाता है, हार क्यों ना हो, क्योंकि उसको हार से मतलब नहीं है, हार से डर नहीं है. अब देखिए किस तरीके से चाइना के साथ डील कर रहा है. एक्चुअली चाइना को फंसा लिया पाकिस्तान आर्मी ने. चाइना अभी बाहर नहीं जा सकता, अंदर जा सकता, ना सीपीसी सक्सेस हो रहा है, ना फेलियर हो रहा है. तो चाइना वाले हैं वो मारे जा रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान में फंसे पड़े हैं. अब देखिए हाउ डज इट डील विद इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड, वो हम बात करेंगे आगे. ओके, ये नजम सेठी का व्यू है. The Pakistan army, or it's not Pakistan army, Pakistan as a whole has an under siege mentality. Always under siege. So what does he say? What does Najam Sethi say? And this is historic. He says from day one, Pakistan has always had problems with India in the east and Afghanistan in the west. And this is where we have probably gone wrong historically. We've always felt that India is its main problem. Historically, Pakistan's main problem has been Afghanistan. We have not dealt with it accordingly. And this is what they say. Kabul doesn't accept the Durand line as a legitimate border with Islamabad, and Islamabad doesn't accept the LOC as a permanent border with New Delhi. Okay? If Pakistan were to yield to Kabul's position, it would mean relinquishing parts of Fatah and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. If India were to yield to Kashmir's position, it would mean letting go of Jammu and Kashmir. Modern states do not yield territory. कोई नहीं देगा किसको. So, each regional player has been trying to change the status quo in its favor by launching terrorist proxies to inflict pain on the other. Though Najam Sethi says that India does it, basically he is actually justifying. This is the justification you'll always see. कि हम ये we'll resort to terrorist proxies because the force of circumstances. See this, they're always under siege. कोई हमें घेर के बैठा है. Okay, the best way anyone has described how salvaging victory from defeat is by Christine Fair. We'll talk of Christine Fair and her book later. What do we say? Pakistan army views its struggle with India as existential. The Pakistan army not winning, even repeatedly, is not the same thing as losing. You see this fine thing which I said. It doesn't matter if they don't win repeatedly, but they cannot lose. And what is their concept of defeat? Accepting the status quo and India's supremacy is the defeat. So they'll never accept status quo with you or us. Okay? India can never be supreme. And she's quoted what a former chief of army staff in 2000 told her. Pakistan's generals would always prefer to take a calculated risk and be defeated than do nothing at all. So they take the risk, they don't mind getting defeated, and in that defeat lies their victory. Now, army will insist on action at almost any cost, even that of presiding over a hollow state. This is what they are now. Pakistan is a hollow state. कुछ है ही नहीं, फिर भी the army is presiding over it. If this hollow state आज के दिन, if it were to make concessions to India, it would not be a state worth presiding over. See their mentality. Defeat is acceptable. But accepting India as a supreme or supremacy of India is not acceptable. That is the actual defeat. Till then, they are victorious. Okay? Victory is the ability to continue fighting. That's important. She's defining what Pakistan's victory is all about. Pakistan army seizes victory even from the jaws of what other observers would deem as defeat. You and I in Kargil, we said we defeated them, but we didn't defeat them because the Pakistan army survived and achieved victory by taking over the nation. Pakistan army inherited this compulsion from British. The entire British army, this again is a very important statement she's made. The entire British army was configured precisely to defend the empire from the threats that were presumed to come into the subcontinent through Afghanistan. While Pakistan inherited the entire threat frontier, it had a meager fraction of the Raj resources. So far, their main threat from the day they came into being is Afghanistan. India is a byproduct, and they don't have the capacity to deal with the Afghan threat today. They ignore that Afghan threat. And that threat is going to kill them. Many people say, why are we doing peace on LAC? That's the best way to kill them. Because now they have to focus on the western frontier. Then there's a strange thing about the Pakistan and Pakistan army. This is somewhere which I read from them. There is a lot that is wrong about the Pakistan army. बहुत खराब है Pakistan army, बहुत उसमें बहुत नुक्स है. It interferes in politics. It makes bad foreign policy choices. It blocks peace feelers with India. It accounts for too much of GDP. खा जाता है देश को. It is too deeply entrenched in the economy. Its human rights record is mixed. However, it is now the main institution holding Pakistan together. And she wrote this 15 years back. And now it has increased. Right? So, the Pakistan army is a strange animal which we have to deal with. This strange animal, which is a byproduct of this complicated animal called Pakistan state, is something we have to live with. Okay? Okay, now, what does Najam Sethi? He said this in 2011. 64 years ago, we dreamed of a modern nation state in which citizens would enjoy the fruits of security, justice, and prosperity. One without religious persecution, at peace with itself and its neighbors. But a litany of false starts, corrupt practices, and misplaced ambitions have transformed our imagined paradise into a living hell. ये इसने लिखा है 2011 में. अभी तो और का हालत खराब है. तो आप देखिए पाकिस्तान का हालत क्या है. और ये जो है हमारा दुश्मन रहेगा. मैं इसमें बताना चाहता हूं, ये जो मैंने पूरा एग्जामिनेशन किया पाकिस्तान वे ऑफ वॉर किस तरीके से लड़ता है, फ्रॉम पाकिस्तानी सोर्सेस, नजम सेठी, तारिक रहमान एंड नसीम जहरा, आगे आएंगे हम, एंड ऑफ कोर्स क्रिस्टीन फेरिस द आउटसाइडर, बट शी वाज द वन हु वेंट एंड रोट अ बुक. इसके बारे में भी हम जिक्र करेंगे आज आगे. एंड फ्रॉम डॉन. Okay, he says in that article, he says, we miscalculated when we sent Pakhtun Lashkars to liberate Kashmir in 1948 because that provoked the partition of Kashmir instead of enabling its accession to Pakistan. So they preempted this whole story कि लश्कर भेज दिया इन्होंने कश्मीर के अंदर, जिसकी वजह से कश्मीर उनको नहीं मिला. And it sparked the compulsion to demonize India as the biggest continuing threat to Pakistan. अगर ये ना करते तो India might not have been a threat उनके मुताबिक. It created the rationale for an authoritarian national security state instead of a democratic social welfare state. The second, third, and the fourth wars with India were all provoked by Pakistan and lost by it. The national security paradigm was constantly strengthened by the propagation of an exactly opposite narrative in which we were portrayed as a heroic victim against an aggressive India. Very, very deep thinking. They provocate to lose. They provocate without thinking. And because of the provocation of the Pakistan and the Pakistan state and the army, they are in this situation where they are. Okay? Very, 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 very. This is how they think and fight. Unless we know how they think before they fight, we will not fight them well. I keep saying this. Any war with China will have to be political first and then the military. Any war with Pakistan will always be military because political is something you can't grasp. But the day you do something political against them, they don't have an answer. So the way to sort out Pakistan is political. You should never give them a chance so that they become heroic victims and we are seen as aggressors. And they created a series of blunders as per Najam Sethi. Foremost among them was the decision to fight America's two wars in Afghanistan. First in the 80s against the USSR and second time in 2000 against Al-Qaeda and Taliban. What are the consequences of both these wars? Radical political Islam and jihadis. The non-state jihadis came into being. And they were legitimized as adjunct of a Praetorian state. So the first war finished off the concept that this is a modern and democratic state or a moderate state. And the second war with Taliban and Al-Qaeda and all that nonsense, right? It put them at war with themselves. This is the thinking now. And they are now at war with themselves. We don't understand this. When they are warred with themselves, is it wise for us to fight with them? Or is it wise for us to politically ensure that they remain at war with themselves? Christine Fair, or someone, I don't remember who's written this, says no nation is an island. If a country is not at peace with itself, it will inevitably wage war against others and disintegrate. And since war is too serious a business to be left to the generals, the civilian must band together to take control of Pakistan and build it anew. This will never happen. This will not happen as what I have said and read. This is the state of Pakistan today. So now I'm going to talk of Pakistan's wars by Tariq Rahman. I read this book, and this book is Tariq Rahman is an ex-army officer who retired very early and became a professor. And what does he say? Very interesting. And this is the way of war they fight. Tariq Rahman says India is a civilizational foe. Hindus are not good fighters. India is a hegemon. Kashmir must be won. This inka belief hai. There is a clique always which works in Pakistan. There is optimism that they'll always win. And there's a group think that there's a small group which is very optimistic of victory and it propagates war, whether it did it in 48, 65, 71, and Kargil. After 48, the clique was only of army officers. He's, in this book, he is very said कि 4-5 बंदे होते हैं जो ये युद्ध छेड़ते हैं भारत के साथ. Gambling is the model of decision making. They gamble. So the Pakistan army knows how to gamble, and that gambling is visible today also. Okay? For example, in 71, they said the war in the east must be won in the west. That was gambling. कि भाई वेस्ट में लड़ाई कर लो तो ईस्ट को बचा लो. वो कैसे, वो लॉजिक आज तक मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया. इंडिया विल नॉट एंड कैनॉट रेस्पॉन्ड इन कारगिल. आप मुंबई कर लो, इसका रिपरकशन कुछ नहीं होगा. गैम्बल है ये. किस आधार पे आप ये सिक्का चलाते हो पता नहीं. ये यही काम करते रहते हैं. मैं ये क्यों बोल रहा हूं, ये अभी अगला गैम्बल होने वाला है कश्मीर के अंदर और ये पाकिस्तान पंजाब में ये शुरू होने वाला है. इनफैक्ट कुछ हद तक ये इलेक्शन के बाद शुरू भी हो गया. They believe there is an assumption within the Pakistan army that hostile acts initiated by it will not result in war, which can cause existential threats. ये जो मर्जी बोलो, बाकी और कोई हमारे साथ कुछ कर नहीं सकता है. ये इनको ये नहीं है कि भाई अगर हम हार गए तो पाकिस्तान टूट सकता है. And Tariq Rahman says in his book, the Pakistan army has always had an exaggerated opinion of itself. So this is how it is. And this mentality was there in Kargil. It was there in 65. It was there in 48. It was there in 71. और ये चलता रहता है. जिस दिन ये मानेंगे कि इंडिया एंड इंडिया रहेंगे नहीं तो ये करेंगे क्यों. यही लिखता है. आई एम गोइंग टू रीड इट आउट नाउ. Pakistan's military regards Indians as incompetent and timid fighters. हम लड़ नहीं सकते जी. ये हिंदू कैसे लड़ेंगे, इंडियन कैसे लड़ेंगे. Even though this assumption has been proven wrong every time, they continue to pursue it. इनके दिमाग में ये, इनके जहन में है कि इंडिया कैन नॉट बी गुड फाइटर्स. सियाचिन में हार गए, कारगिल में हार गए, कहीं भी देखो हार गए, फिर भी ये सोचते हैं कि पाकिस्तानी आर द बेस्ट फाइटर्स. द अटैक, ये तारिक रहमान जो है ना, ये सारे युद्ध 48, 61, 65, 71, कारगिल, सियाचिन, सबके बारे में उसने लिखा है थोड़ा बहुत. कहता है अटैक ऑन कारगिल वाज कैरिड आउट इन द बिलीफ that India would be too intimidated to counter because Pakistan had exploded the nuclear bombs in the spring of 1998 in response to India's nuclear blast. And very importantly, Pakistan के साथ अगला लड़ाई जब होगा ये ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा हमें. Pakistan's wars had been initiated by the army without consulting either the air force or the navy. हम थिएटराइजेशन की बात कर रहे हैं, जॉइंट फोर्स की बात कर रहे हैं. वहां तो कुछ नहीं चलता, सिर्फ पाकिस्तान आर्मी. और हर बार पाकिस्तान आर्मी ने लड़ाई शुरू किया, उसके बाद एयरफोर्स और नेवी को लिया है. To maintain secrecy, many senior officers within the army also don't get briefed. खुद नहीं बताते. सिर्फ 4-5 होते हैं हीरो, चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ, सीजीएस, 2-4 इधर उधर पकड़ लिया और लड़ाई शुरू. उसके बाद वो बाकी को लेके आते हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर को लेके आते हैं, बाकी फौज को ले आते हैं कि भाई हमने शुरू कर दिया, अब चलो लड़ाई लड़ो. क्यों शुरू किया, क्या मुद्दा है, किसी को नहीं पता. तो हमें हर वक्त इन चीजों के बारे में चौकन्ना रहने की जरूरत है. And he talks of gambling by a click. This is very important. I found it very interesting about Pakistan. What he says, the decision to plunge the country into battle is taken by a few zealots, displaying a gambler's mindset. Risk Pakistan's future without thinking through the unintended consequences. The decision makers of the time assumed that Kashmiris, yet 48 में उन्होंने सोचा कि कश्मीर में revolt हो जाएगा. It didn't. 1947-48, military chiefs did not realize that the guerrillas they were sending into Kashmir would unleash havoc on the local population and alienate the local population. In 65, they did not realize that guerrillas would be handed over to the Indian authorities by locals. 20 साल के बाद they had alienated the locals. 1999, they did not realize that the world community would respond negatively to Pakistan's incursion in Kashmir. Pakistan helped create Taliban in Afghanistan in 1990, but it did not anticipate the consequences. So अगर आप देखेंगे तो ये 4-5 लोग, जैसे कारगिल के अंदर मुशर्रफ था, उनका सीजीएस था, जीओसी 10 कोर था और एफसीएनए कमांडर, 4 लोगों ने शुरू कर दिया काम. उसी तरीके से 65 में इट वाज उनका अयूब खान एंड 2-3 अदर्स हु स्टार्टेड. वो बाद में जब 65 का लड़ाई होगा उसके बारे में हम जिक्र करेंगे. So there's this clique who starts wars. In 71 it was Yahya Khan and Tika Khan. Only in 48 it was Jinnah who started it. And he egged the Pakistan army on. एक बार पाकिस्तान आर्मी में ये मुंह में खून लग गया कि हम ऐसे ही लड़ाई करना है, तो वो तब से लेकर अभी तक लड़ाई नहीं बंद किया. तो अगला लड़ाई जब भी अगर हमारे साथ पाकिस्तान के साथ होगा, यू टू लुक फॉर द क्लिक. ये कौन है ये 4-5 आदमी जो लड़ाई पे तुले हैं? इनवेरिएबली इनका सरगना होता है पाकिस्तान आर्मी चीफ. और ये जो चीफ है अभी, वो बिल्कुल कट्टर एंटी इंडियन है. खैर वो तो हर चीफ उनका एंटी इंडियन होता है. तो ये जो नसीम जहरा का किताब फ्रॉम कारगिल टू द कू, इसके बारे में मैं विश्लेषण में बताऊंगा कि ये कारगिल का प्लान कैसे इन्होंने प्लान किया उनके दृष्टिकोण से, पर कुछ ओवरऑल किस तरीके से पाकिस्तान में लड़ाई होता है उसके बारे में ये जिक्र करती है. ये और एक और चीज है, बहुत लोग सराहना करते हैं नसीम जहरा का किताब बहुत अच्छा है, मैं भी बोलता हूँ बहुत अच्छा किताब है. इट गिव्स यू अ वेरी क्लियर आइडिया ऑफ व्हाट पाकिस्तान डिड इन कारगिल. बट रिमेंबर, शी इज ऑल्सो कट्टर पाकिस्तानी. ठीक, वो इंडियन नहीं है, इंडिया के और बात नहीं कर रही है, वो अपना प्रॉब्लम बता रही है. शी ऑल्सो सेज डूइंग कारगिल वॉज नोबल इंटेंशन, बट मेथड जो है ना ठीक नहीं है. यहां पहली बार किसी पाकिस्तानी ऑथर का मैंने लिखा हुआ देखा है जो बोलते हैं कि स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑब्जेक्टिव्स आर होली इन नेचर. इनका स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑब्जेक्टिव कभी भी कारगिल का रोड या कश्मीर ये नहीं, दे आर होली इन नेचर, अल्लाह के नाम पे. देयर इज अ सिविल मिलिट्री डिसफंक्शनैलिटी, क्योंकि मिलिट्री हावी है. देयर इज ऑलवेज अ रिवेंज एंड एंटी इंडिया सेंटिमेंट. और ऑफ कोर्स इन कारगिल के बारे में जब लिखती है कहते हैं गैंग ऑफ फोर, उसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे किस अगले एपिसोड. मिलिट्री कीप सिविल आउट ऑफ द लूप ऑलवेज. ठीक, वो सेंटर ऑफ पावर कहाँ है? आर्मी के अंदर. गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ काम करने के लिए. इट्स द वाइस वर्सा इन इंडिया. इन इंडिया द सिविल कीप्स द आर्मी आउट ऑफ द लूप. दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम इन इंडिया. इनको न्यूक्लियर डिटरेंस का कोई अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं है, सोच समझ नहीं है इसके बारे में. ये बड़ा डेंजरस सिचुएशन है. इसलिए वो बोलते रहते हैं हम एटमी बॉम्ब इस्तेमाल कर लेते हैं, हम एटमी शक्ति है। आप उसका उनका मीडिया चैनल्स में देखिए, यही बोलते हैं। पाक, भारत हमारे साथ ऐसे क्यों कह सकता है? वो भारत नहीं बोलते, वो इंडिया बोलते हैं। इंडिया ऐसे क्यों, कैसे कर सकता है? हम तो एटमी शक्ति है। दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड न्यूक्लियर डिटरेंस। इनका थिंकिंग छोटा है, टेक्टिकल थिंकिंग। दे दे वांट टू डिफीट इंडिया मिलिटरीली। इसका पॉलिटिकल ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है इनको पता नहीं, एंड दे आर नॉट बॉदर्ड अबाउट द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस। ये कारगिल के बारे में लिखते हैं। वन ऑफ द मोस्ट स्ट्राइकिंग फीचर्स ऑफ कारगिल वाज हाउ इट वाज a repeat of key faulty premises on which the earlier Operation Gibraltar and Operation Grand Slam had been planned. Very significant कि इनका जो plans है, right there from 47, from 65, 71, Kargil, there's a repetitiveness of that plan. प्लान जगह अलग हो सकता है, पर इनके मोटा मोटा प्लान वही गलती है। ओके, वन ऑफ द मेन इंग्रेडिएंट्स की इनका ये सोच है कि इंडिया विल नॉट स्ट्राइक बैक एट ऑल। प्लानर्स वर ओवरकम बाय द डिजायर्स एंड सेंटिमेंट दैट प्रिवेंटेड देम फ्रॉम फुल्ली अप्रिशिएटिंग द रियलिटीज। कि हमारा सोच ये है, चाहे कुछ भी हो हम कर लेंगे। ये बेवकूफी करते हैं, राइट? False foundations for war planning are often outcomes of well-meaning motives and objectives, but are drained of the discipline of objectivity, of wholesome appreciation of the context. Right? Now, he says, it is as von Clausewitz states, the taking over of the commander's mind by the unruly goddess of imagination. This is very important. In Khab, Pakistani generals का खाब, उनका खाब क्या है? इंडिया को हराओ, बस। Right? He says it denudes the general of his ability to appreciate reality and ends in disaster. बहुत लोग पूछते हैं, यार जनरल करते क्या है? जनरल सोचता है, उसका सोच है, और वो सोच किसके ऊपर आधार पर है? एक्सपीरियंस के ऊपर। अगर लड़ाई के वक्त अगर हम अपना ख्वाब में रहते हैं और हमारा इच्छा अनुसार हम काम करना चाहते हैं, और हमारा जो इमोशंस के बलबूते अगर हम लड़ाई करना चाहते हैं, हम हारेंगे। कोई भी लड़ाई, कोई भी प्रिपरेशन, कोई भी जीत हासिल करने के लिए ऑब्जेक्टिविटी चाहिए कि भाई वास्तविकता क्या है, हम वास्तविकता में हैं या नहीं है। क्रिस्टीन फेयर का किताब है पाकिस्तान आर्मीज वे ऑफ वॉर, इट्स अ क्लासिक। जिसने नहीं पढ़ा प्लीज पढ़िए, वो बहुत अच्छी तरीके से लिखती है। वो कहते हैं इंडिया मस्ट एक्सेप्ट पाकिस्तान एज एन इक्वल। उनका राय ये है, इफ यू एक्सेप्ट पाकिस्तान एज एन इक्वल, फिर कुछ है। इट्स प्रॉब्लम्स विद इंडिया आर मच मोर कैप्रेशियस देन द टेरिटोरियल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ओवर कश्मीर। कश्मीर उनको मिल भी गया तो ये लड़ाई उनके साथ बंद नहीं होगा। And she goes on to say Pakistan's internal resources are inadequate for the quest of seizing Kashmir, resisting India's rise, and orchestrating Afghan affairs. So there's a consistent theme which comes from their internal writing. And that internal writing is very clear. They know it also. That their main problem is in Afghanistan. They've created a problem with India which they did not have to create. And they don't have the resources to stop our rise or fight us and Afghanistan together. So in the end, what will happen to Pakistan? They'll never get out of this rut. The defeat of Pakistan lies in the political defeat of Pakistan army. Remember this. Okay. Then she also writes, Pakistan has few allies, none that support its maximalistic agenda with respect to India, except China. China is its biggest ally. Even China doesn't support it in many times. Pakistan's reliance upon Islamist proxies, creates external security challenges for itself. And that is coming true. Christine Fair wrote this book 15 years back. Pakistan's revisionism persists to undermine India's position in the region and beyond. इनको जहां थोड़ा रिकवरी हो गया ये शुरू हो जाएंगे. Pakistan army involves in managing domestic affairs of the state. Okay? It sees itself as responsible for protecting not only Pakistan's territorial frontiers but also its ideological frontiers. देखिए, एक नसीम जहरा है, वो बोलती है कि पाकिस्तान आर्मी फाइट्स द होली वॉर. एक बाहर का क्रिस्टीन फेयर बोलती है Pakistan army protects the ideological frontiers. So how do you defeat this ideology? Is the challenge before us. The same problem which Israel army is having against Gaza, against Hamas. How do you defeat an ideology? वहां तो छोटी सी जगह है, यहाँ का आइडियोलॉजी तो पूरा पाकिस्तान है, पूरा पाकिस्तान आर्मी है. हमें थोड़ा सोच करने की जरूरत है कि इस आइडियोलॉजी को कैसे नष्ट किया जाए. ठीक है, राइट. In the strategic culture of Pakistan, there is an inherent linkage between internal and external security challenges. So at any given time, it is not purely external, it is not purely internal. जब ये लड़ते हैं, इनके अंदर प्रॉब्लम है, जब अंदर प्रॉब्लम है तो that problem transfers itself externally. We have to approach Pakistan different. But have we been doing it? Have we been thinking like this? It says Pakistan combines its conventional and nuclear capabilities in a way that it makes it impossible for India to impose such a penalty at a price that India is willing to pay. That is why you cannot go to conventional war with Pakistan. We have to devise some other method of going to war with Pakistan. And the best war with Pakistan is development. You develop, when you develop power. And when you develop power, you outpace Pakistan. That's the best war. You want to defeat Pakistan? Defeat it by growth. And that growth will make you so strong that even China will get defeated. But I'll talk of China later. Pakistan's Kashmir strategy, okay, leaves India with two unpalatable options. We have to think of this today because I see a certain revival in Kashmir after these elections, and I've spoken of it day before yesterday. Okay, what are the two unpalatable options? Live with the insurgency and terrorism that Pakistan promotes. It will now promote more. Or retaliate in a manner that crosses Pakistan's nuclear red lines. This has been our consistent challenge. And Pakistan, this is very important, can intervene in ways that keep the conflict going essentially for free. अभी भी चल रहा है वहां. हर दूसरा दिन तीसरा दिन कोई ना कोई वारदात होता रहता है. Pakistan Armed Forces is the watchman of the country's belief system and society. Pakistan, under the control of its armed forces, has been and continues to be and will remain a destabilizing force due to its own weakness and those of its neighbors. कौन neighbor है? Afghanistan. Okay. Pakistan military views India and Kashmir as an ideological issue rather than a security issue. So we are fighting an ideological war with Pakistan. And what we have to think is, I keep telling people when we think of war, you're fighting a different ideology in Pakistan and a different ideology in China. The military is not important. It's the ideology which is important. And our political war is more important. And we have to think this new. Okay? It earns to match. It wants to match India's abilities. And military commanders in Islamabad will continue to pursue foolhardy strategies towards New Delhi. The mobilizing cry has to be pit Muslim Pakistan against Hindu India. Pakistan will revive if the growth of Hinduism in India is overt. Remember that. The fact is we are Hindu. They've been getting away from it. We are 80% plus Hindu. We are a Hindu nation. I am very clear about that. But we are also a secular nation by constitution. That's also a fact. But we talk more Hinduism, they'll talk more Muslim Pakistan. We have to handle this politically. I said, handling this politically is more important. Triumph is found in not yielding at any point of time to India. Cannot be seen as being defeated by India. Okay, last point is very interesting. Inclination to start a conflict is an issue of pride. They take pride in starting a conflict. Whatever the conflict is, it has to be in conflict in India. Okay, quickly, right? This is about, it's extraterritorial. Pakistan, I said, no, in the Islamic world. Any threat to Saudi Arabia's territorial integrity evokes a strong response from Pakistan. It doesn't matter. They have gone, their forces are in Saudi Arabia. Rahil Sharif is in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia can invade Yemen, but Pakistan has to go and defend it. Islamabad and Riyadh, in their own ways, are deeply ideological states, and they have forged vital partnerships over the years. It's a fact. It is, and one of the intelligence sources says it's probably one of the closest relationships in the world between any two countries. Luckily, this is changing to some extent. Some change is happening because Saudi Arabia is changing, not Pakistan. Pakistan wants the same old relationship. But there's an umbilical relationship between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, which we need to understand. Okay. Then Pakistan's military has been used in Jordan. It has been used in, Yemen. It has been used in Bahrain. It has been used in Kuwait. Everywhere. Ziaul Haq, when he was a brigade commander, he killed over 20,000 Palestinians in Jordan. It has provided military aid to everyone in that area. Okay. So you see that these people are completely on a different thinking level, and we have to also think differently. And then I read this article in Prism of Dawn. They have a thing called Prism in 2 years back. There's always a permissible truth which comes out. Truth never comes out in Pakistan. There's only a permissible truth which comes out. Permissible truth is we need to break up India in 1947. That was the truth. But it resulted in breakup. And then whatever the permissible truth came out in 1971, it resulted in the breakup of Pakistan. So now that it is broken up, you have to avenge it. The actual truth, why it broke, they've so far not declassified it. There's always a denial of defeat. This is what they write. And now they have a new narrative, how they're making victory out of defeat. 93,000 people who are captured by India is not army, it's all civilians. Bajwa said this. Okay? Then there's a doctrine of necessity. Throughout their history, why do they take over as whenever they've taken over the country in a coup, the judiciary has supported them. Why they have supported them? Because it's necessary for them to support it. Because it's born of the perception that the Pakistan army is the only institution capable of handling Pakistan's complex problem. And the army is the benevolent guardian of the state. Right? But today people are saying, no, that's invalid. It is completely against the constitution. But they have gone to that level that cannot be reversed. Okay? Then religio-political forces ke baare mein Najam Sethi, what does he say? He says religio-political forces in Pakistan have been mollycoddled by civilian and military governments. हम बोलेंगे तो they'll disagree, but they themselves saying they are an integral element of national security strategy. But they also agree they're visible threats to the fabric of democratic government and civil society in the country. As the world recoils from an image of Pakistan wrought by such gun-toting fundamentalists bent on waging jihad against the West, the price of this dubious state strategy becomes prohibitive. But that doesn't stop Pakistan army from being what it is. Okay? Right. So, one of my last, I started with this slide. Pakistan army is a complicated animal. It needs better understanding. It emerges victorious after every defeat. Pakistan can lose, but not the army. Military and political defeat of Pakistan is not the defeat of the army. Pakistan army cannot be defeated militarily. It has to be defeated politically. It survives all such defeats to achieve its own political victory within Pakistan. Political defeat of the army is important, as shown by Article 370 abrogation. If political defeat cannot be engineered, ensure that Pakistan army is not given battle. Keep them out of battle. Pakistan may be poor. Pakistan army is not. Remember this always. It is ill-equipped and ready to fight. So what do we do? How do you color the Pakistan army politically? Do you ignore them? Do you fight them? Do you engage with them? This is the $1 million question. This is a preamble, because maybe sometime next week I'll start the series on Kargil, and I'm going to start with the Pakistani view of how this Kargil war was conducted, and then I'll ask people who were in the Kargil war to tell us. Because this larger understanding of Pakistan, its army, its psyche, how people, there's a clique which starts operating, they gamble. What is their concept of defeat? What is their concept of victory? All this is contained in the Kargil war. Okay, so we'll talk of that when I get time, because I'm going to be a little busy. I have some commitments. On 17th, I'm going to USA. And I'm going to continue with this from USA. From USA, if I don't get anyone else, I'm going to do solo. So you're going to see me a lot of this academic stuff, but I'll do it. If you people are interested, get your people over. Because I think knowing this is very important for all of us. We are now, these days, we underestimate that Pakistan is not our enemy. It still remains our enemy. Right, I'll take a few questions. Okay, if their army is such equipped and trained, why do they get beating from rebel forces? Because they train the rebel forces. Both of them are of the same capability. And in such rebel, this thing in their own areas, you can't use unrestrained power. That's the problem. Sir, are you sure Pakistan salvages victory from defeat? Definitely. Have you seen it? I mean, you are asked this. I saw your question, which you gave it to me. Put up this question before I started the story. So, Shrutik, wait till what I talk and then ask the question. They are never that. The whole story. Yahi hai iska. Okay. What's the morale like of the PF and Pak Navy? It's as bad as good as this thing. Chinese are arming them, but they're always been emasculated by the army. Yeah, they have a problem. They have a problem of being left out of battle. Tomorrow's war with anyone, you will see Pakistan Air Force and Navy will be brought in at the last minute with poor planning. And the Pakistan Army and Air Force, I would say, are more professional in the army. They don't take the risk. They do their diligence. And they have always not backed the army in its adventurous activities. Yeah, we'll have to wait to see the conditions of IMF and its impact to see social uprising in Pakistan. Your views? It might happen before. It's already happened in POK, some social uprising. Yesterday, day before, there's some problem in Chaman, which is on the Afghanistan border. So this will start. Be rest assured. I am very clear. Amazing analysis. Oh, thanks a lot. Unless they accept 71 defeat and forget the aftermath of 1000 cuts policy they have towards India, they will continue digging their own pit till the major powers agree to its dismantlement. I don't know about dismantlement and all that, but they'll never give up. To think that they'll give up against India and accept India's thing is foolish. What happens, we don't know, but we need to be prepared for their activities, their adventurous activities, their gambling. The survival of the Pakistan army isn't going for a war and getting defeated, getting the nation defeated so that it can survive as it's secure, so that it is the only one which can guard the nation. You have to understand this complex situation. Keeping the great game of the erstwhile empire in perspective, it would be reasonable to say that Pak is a loyal military outpost interchangeable with the defenders of the faith. Your views? I think that story is gone, over. Faith, Booth and all is gone. Now the thing is that it's a strategic wedge for China. It gives a different frontier for USA against Iran and Afghanistan, and it gives a north-south connectivity to Russia. The location is more important than this whole story. Where the faith thing comes in is because of Pakistan's own internal construct. The writings by the Pakistani analysts show their contradictions in their thought process as opposed to the ground reality. Yes, at times they are utopian. They are very critical of the army in many places, but unfortunately, no one listens to them. Kargil was the epoch when India managed win USA from Pakistan, made USA. Yes, I'll speak about this. I'll speak about this when I discuss Nasim Zahra's book. We can make them bother of consequences, but the secularism that you and General Hasnain exhibited yesterday is a real problem. I don't think you have understood this story. If you don't have secularism, you are going to have bigger problems, and then you'll just disintegrate on your own. They are not going to disintegrate. Don't worry. Yeah. The fact that Nawaz Sharif has to go pleading to Clinton in the middle of the I agree with you. Their ideology has solution embedded in their book. Believe me, no terrorist will try to. I think you're off the cuff. Okay. At 4th June, secularism, what makes India a beautiful birthplace of many religions. If a leader in one religion tries to declare India as religious state of a particular religion, then that is the problem. Yes. Okay, I will not talk of religion anymore. There is this theory of martial race seems to be influential in India. I agree with you, but it's not. There's no martial race. Okay, right. Let me take questions of people who have not. Pakistan's plan of sowing Khalistan element is looking successful. Do you think India can handle it? We can. It's a matter of time getting the policies right. Oh, this is good. Thank you. Look, what I do is generally well thought of, well researched. Whoever comes talks sense. To get people who are interested. I don't want riffraff coming here. This question about using development as a strategy to counter Pakistan. Israel is much more developed than Gaza. It did not work there. How will it work here? Gaza is not an organized state, whereas Pakistan is. There's a huge difference. Okay, there's a big difference. There's no similarity between Gaza and Pakistan. Pakistan Army is the second name of Qaeda-e-Azam. Yes. How can ISI still manage to get vital information from DRD? That's part of normal. Can communism be a solution for disciplined fast growth of India? No. Yeah. I am unable to watch live every day since I put my questions. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. Mm. Yeah. I still want to ask the question I asked yesterday. You may hold an opinion that India is a tangible victim of China. We are not victims of China, don't worry. And the Indian public does not support the fight against China. That's also wrong. Indian public fully supports our fight against China, and one day we're going to fight China and we're going to wallop them. Okay, I think we've done for the day. Till tomorrow. Tomorrow evening, I'm going to talk about elections and China. What the repercussions of elections, the outcomes here and in Taiwan and within China. Till then, thank you. We're going to start at 7 o'clock in the evening tomorrow because 8 o'clock we have a match with Pakistan. Till then, good evening, thank you, and Jai Hind.